We were actually visiting or attending ABF back in 2017, praying about where to go, and we didn't know where we were supposed to go next. We thought we were going to go to international missions. At the time, we went and helped open a school. That door was closed to us after a year, and we returned to the States. We were attending ABF with Thomas and Bruce, and Bruce asked us if we could do anything, what would we do next? And we said, well, we would enjoy opening a camp that served a wide array of people. And then just that next Sunday, a gentleman from Shiloh happened to be attending ABF and said, do you know of anybody that is good with kids, works, doesn't mind raising support, and would love to help turn around a camp? And Bruce said, yes, we do. And so I got a call from that board member or he passed on our information, and I got a call from that board member at like 9 o'clock that night on Sunday, about 7 years ago from now. So we prayed about it and accepted the job. Our passion has always been starting and building and growing ministries. And when we went to Shiloh, Shiloh was a great ministry, and what drew us was their discipleship program, where it's not just a one and done, kids go to camp, we'll see you next year kind of camp. It's actually how can we grow these kids, get them involved in their homes, get them involved in their churches, and really pour into the kids. And so that was one of the things that drew us to the camp. So at the time, the camp was about 12 camps. It was struggling to stay open. It was financially struggling. And so we went and we said, what can we do to turn this camp around? And in that time, the Lord has really blessed the camp. And so we've gone from 12 camps to about 45. Depends on the year. Sometimes it's 48, sometimes it's 44. But it has really grown towards a financially sound camp. The ministry remains the same. The team has grown from one missionary couple to 3 missionary families, a retired family, and several part-time volunteers, along with regular volunteers from churches such as yourself. Speaking of that, Shiloh does have their annual workday this Saturday, and that's kind of how the camp stays open, is by relying on volunteers. So if you're interested in learning more about that, please see me afterwards. I'd love to share more about this Saturday's workday. So we went to Shiloh, and the camp has been doing really well. So a little history on the camp. So we can go on to the next 2 slides. So the purpose of the camp is to study, do, and teach, again, to really kind of grow the camp. So in that time, why go to Shiloh? Some of the reasons why we go there, or we want kids to go there. It's committed to keeping the cost of camp low, so we never turn away kids for financial reasons. If a kid asks to come, we always say yes. If they can't afford it, God will provide. And we can do that because all the staff are volunteers. Shiloh focuses on year-round discipleship. We offer scholarships. We focus on Jesus and the gospel, and so every camp is really focused on that. We don't focus on the differences between denominations. We focus on teaching the kids about Jesus and him being the only way to heaven. And all camp activities are designed to direct campers back to Jesus Christ. In that growth period, so the next slide, please, we've almost tripled the number of camps, tripled the number of campers. We've increased our staff and added new missionary families. As of this past Friday, the new director has joined the camp. Great young family, and so we're excited to pass the baton on to them as they continue to grow that ministry. Some additional impact, and this is one of my favorite slides. The next one, please. Oh, one more, sorry. In the last 6 years, we've seen 3,733 campers and 500 Timothys attend at least one of Shiloh's camps. 456 first-time decisions made for Christ, and over 1,000 recommitments made for Christ. And reaching kids for Christ is the goal of the camp. And so 7 years ago, when we kind of 6.5 when we accepted the role and went to Shiloh, it really was this church that gets to own this slide, along with other churches as well. But you guys are part of this ministry. Your faithful giving, your faithful prayers, your faithful service has allowed this to take place. Without you guys sending us, without you guys joining us, this would not have been possible. So we really want to say thank you guys for being faithful partners. Now, with that being said, we do feel like we kind of worked ourselves out of a job. We really do like to grow ministries. And the last 2 years, we've really been not struggling, but kind of praying about, okay, if the camp's going so well, Lord, what would you have us do? So we've been pouring into the local church up there, but really feeling the urge and the call to help grow the next ministry. And so we've been praying about that, and I'll let my wife share a little bit about Spain and why we chose Spain.
All right. So if you'll go to the next slide, please. So basically, why Spain? Because when I first heard about Spain, it sounded like a great vacation destination, and that's kind of all I knew, was that it was in Europe, and Europe's cool. I want to go there someday. But since we began looking at where God would have for us next, we searched out schools all over the world because, like Mike said, we have a passion to go where God can use our gifts most, but we didn't know where that was. We were open to wherever in the world that might be. And so we looked at schools all over, and we landed in Spain, partly because they have a population of approximately 47.5 million people, and less than 3% of those people know Jesus as their Savior. Culturally, it's predominantly Catholic, but there are a lot of young people who really want nothing to do with religion, a lot of older people who have been hurt by religion, and of those 3%, of people in Spain that know Jesus, it's estimated that less than 1% of them are actually Spaniards. Most of them are immigrants coming in from other places. So there's a huge need for the gospel there. And if you'll go to the next one, thank you. There's also a strong push, particularly of Muslims coming in to spread Islam. And Christian education, which is what we'll be going back into, is a tool to spread the gospel. So the next slide shares a little bit about why international Christian education. And really, we have a passion for educating and reaching children for Christ, and it's really feeling like going kind of back to our roots. It's what Mike went to school for. He was in education in LA. He worked in education in China, and then we kind of took a little hiatus at the camp, and then it feels like we're really going back into what we spent years preparing for and where our gifts can best be used. And Christian education integrates the truth of God's word into all of the subjects and gives opportunity to share with kids and then as well with their parents and families. And because Spain is a first world nation, like here in the U.S., there aren't so much physical needs as maybe you would think of going to a poorer country, but all their kids have to go to school because it's not legal to homeschool. And so Christian education provides for a need because maybe there's kids who public school is not a good fit for them, or they just want their kids to learn English. That's a big draw because the school is English immersion, and parents want their kids to know English. So even if the parents aren't believers, they want to send their kids somewhere where they'll be safe, they'll be cared for, they'll be taught well, and they can learn English. So this is like the big draw for parents to send kids, and then kids come and they hear the gospel, and then there's also opportunity to reach out to the parents as well. And next slide, there are, for all those 47.5 million people, there are currently only 2 Christian schools that Spanish kids are allowed to attend. There's, I think, 1 more that missionary kids can attend, but for Spaniards, there are only 2 in the whole country. And so a gentleman who was the director of a missionary kids school in a suburb of Madrid had the heart and passion to bring Christian education to Spaniards. And the board of his missionary school was not interested in broadening their scope, and so he decided to start a new organization called Christian Schools in Spain to bring Christian education to Spaniards. And they opened their first international school called Life International School in 2017, and that's the school we'll be going to serve at first. And they have a goal of opening 19 more by 2040. And so when we were searching out schools, where to go, we saw, hundreds of job postings about this admin in this country and this school and that. And as soon as Mike read the job posting for this one, he said, this is it. Because this vision for 20 schools by 2040 really resonated with his giftings and his desires. And so we're excited to go be part of it. We visited in November. We did a scouting trip, and we visited this school and a school in a different country, and ultimately landed on this school fit with our desires and gifts and passions, as well as being a good place for our kids to go, because they will all attend school with Mike. And we talked to a missionary who has been in Spain for 30 years, and she said that this is the most fruitful ministry she has seen. Again, parents want a safe place for their kids to be, and they walk into life school, and it's different. And it's different because Jesus is there, and we have the opportunity to tell them that.
A quick story on, some people have asked us, why aren't there Christian schools in Spain? And the reason is because during the Reformation, and the Inquisition, two different time periods sort of, but they slaughtered a bunch of Christians in Spain, and then the Reformation took place in Northern Europe, and then they tried pushing south, but the countries in Southern Europe were very predominantly Catholic, and so they kept the Christianity from coming south. So Italy, Portugal, Greece, and Spain were 4 countries that really didn't see a Christian influence because of the martyrdom of the Christians, and the countries, the government's not letting Christianity come in. So there was really a split in Europe, with the Northern Europe becoming more Christian and Southern Europe becoming predominantly Catholic. And so when people say, well, why isn't Christianity there? Christianity came from Europe, not all of Europe. And so we were really surprised to hear that there was so few Christian schools in Spain. And so obviously there's still the same need in Portugal, Italy, and Greece, but the vision of this gentleman the team that we're joining, that we were able to kind of, that tugged at our hearts, was my gifting to help and my passion to help start ministries. And so it's exciting to be able to be a part of that. I would say that I have a pretty thick skin, and so working in LA with junior hires for 9 years will kind of do that to you. Where there's not a lot that people can say that'll get under our skin. And so working, kind of doing the pioneering work where you don't always see the fruit right away, is something that we can do and be a part of. So being a part of, but on the flip side, being a part of Shiloh, which was so fruitful for 6 years, has been rewarding, because that hasn't always been the case with most missionaries. That sometimes you'll have someone be on the field for 30 years and see very little fruit, but they stay faithful. And so we're excited to kind of be a part of a growing ministry where we can see fruit at a school, and then help start and do the hard work to help start the schools for reaching the families. Another interesting model is, some people say, well, why not plant churches? And the reason is because Spain has kind of a backward model that seems to be working. It says they planted churches there, but the churches that are there are very predominantly, shallow, but also seeker-friendly. The younger generation, like my wife said, they see themselves as not needing the gospel, and so they don't. So it's harder to get people to come to the churches, and so there are churches there. But once they open the school, the families are coming to the school, and then they get them plugged in and church plant from there. So they're planting the para-ministries to then plant the churches, and so it's kind of a backwards model, but it's a successful model, and it works there, and so. Yeah, so that was that quick story. So my wife will continue sharing more about Spain.
Well, so specifically, what will we be doing with this organization? So we are going under Christian Schools in Spain to Life International School, and Mike will be the associate director, and I'll let him tell you about what that means.
As associate director, this first school has been growing, and so right now they're pre-K, age 3 through 10th grade. There's about 104 students right now, enrolled in the school. Their vision is kind of different amongst the board members. I got to meet their board members at a recent retreat. Some of the board members would like to see the school grow to 200. Another board member has said they'd like to see the school grow to 1,000. And so both are great visions. It might be that it grows to 250 and then they split, and that's when they start the next school, and then they start the next school. But my goal for the first year, what I'm going to be working with is their high school program, their secondary program, getting their 11th and 12th grade program off the ground for these first 2 years. And then we'll see where from there. It might be continuing to help this school establish itself. They just got a new building, so they're still trying to get their own building, just like ABF. You got to start from somewhere. They have a building fund going to start to do that one day. And so this summer, they're transitioning from their smaller building to a larger building, still there in Tres Cantos. It's a small suburb of Madrid. And then from there, we'll see how God provides for the school. Their vision is to plant 4 to 5 schools in each major metropolitan area. So we're in the northwest corner of Madrid. And then they're looking at doing a school in the southeast. They're already talking to someone there. And then eventually maybe even a school right in the middle. So you can have the secondary school in the middle, elementary schools around that feed into the secondary program. But right now, I will be helping them get their 11th and 12th grade accredited so that the kids can come back and go to a university of their choice. I'm working to help build the school culture. We have a new chaplain coming this year, so kind of getting that going. Bible can be taught freely in Spain, which is great. Street evangelism hasn't been as profitable, fruitful, because again, a lot of people don't feel like they need Christ. And so this is a way to reach the families, the younger generations for Christ. And so that's what I'm going to be doing, is helping them establish their secondary program.
And for me, I will still primarily be wife and mom. I will jump into language school when we get there to learn Spanish so that we can live there and get around and build relationships and talk to people. And I'm looking forward to the language learning being a means of outreach to talk with moms at the school. The director said his favorite part of the day is after school, when all the parents, the moms stay outside and talk, and the kids run around and play, and just opportunity to build relationships and say, hey, I'm new here and I'm learning the language. Can you help me? And then see where it goes from there, as well as just figuring out, like, where do we grocery shop and how do we get the things we need for school and all the things, and helping the kids transition. It's going to be a big transition going from camp in Donnelly to school in Spain. So we appreciate your prayers for that, especially for them. And does anybody have any questions? I'm sure we missed something. So if anybody has any questions.
With that being said, I'll share another quick little story. We really see God working in our lives. When you know you're called, you're called. As missionaries, we've always felt that God has called us to go serve, whether that be in the business world, whether that be in education, whether that be as a pastor. You just know if you're faithfully in the Word, you know what you're supposed to be doing. So actually, let me take a step back. Who here believes that that they have the gifting of being a pastor? 2. And you know what? That's awesome, because if we all had the same gifting, the church couldn't grow. I am not a pastor. I do not believe I have the gifting of a pastor. We have certain pastors that go out and church plant. That's amazing. Thomas and Bruce coming in church planting here and growing Jacob into the great pastor he is awesome. That has never been my gifting. My gifting has always been, I love Excel spreadsheets. I love working with kids, and I love seeing ministries grow. And so we've always asked ourselves, how can we use that gift to further his kingdom? And that has been through parachurch ministries, and helping plant the church school in China, to helping turn around the school in LA, to helping turn around Shiloh Bible Camp and making that a fruitful ministry. And so we have seen God use our giftings to glorify him. My wife is an amazing nurturing mom, and she loves working with our kids and working with other kids. And so before we went to China, just looking back at our path, we joined an organization that we only needed partial support because we were partially stipend. And so we were able to go to our little circle of people that we knew in Reseda, in Los Angeles, San Fernando Valley, Santa Clarita, California, and kind of get us to the missions field. When we went to Shiloh 7 years ago, we didn't need full support as well because we were able to supplement our income with Uber. I actually came down here twice a month and would drive Thursday to Sundays, come to church. Actually, we came to church, ABF, Sunday mornings, and then I would drive again after church. And that's how we did that twice a month to supplement the support until God got us to a level where we could financially maintain that ministry. Going to Spain is much different in that we're actually not going to be released by our sending agency until we reach our level of support. And so we've gone from a little bit to enough to now we need full support to get to Spain. And so some of those asks, we're called to be bold and ask because we're not asking you to partner with us financially. We're asking you to partner with the ministry financially through us. We know we're called. We don't know everybody at the church. We would love to have you guys over at our house for hamburgers. We were given a whole bunch of meat at Shiloh. Another way that Idahoans have provided is we have about 50 pounds of hamburger patties in our freezer. We would love to have you over for hamburgers and hot dogs sometime to share more about the ministry and to get to know you so that you can see our hearts as well. Another way is for if you would be willing to invite your friends as well, because we're about a few $1,000s short of being able to go on our timetable. We would love to go August 1st with the school year starting September 6th. We know that the Lord might say that's not his timetable, and he might have us here till December, which means you guys get to see us till December. But we would love to go August 1st. So we would love for you to partner with us by just opening your homes, opening our homes to you guys. If you know of anybody that would love to partner with us in this ministry, please let them know. Please give them our cards. Please call them. Please invite your friends to our house. We would love that. We really would. We would love to get to know you guys. Did you have something? Oh, so the next slide. Oh, we're already there. Will you partner with us? This is a QR code, which can actually be found on our prayer cards in the back, and we have some as well up here. This will take you to our newsletter sign up. It's where you can kind of see what we do regularly. My wife is big into social media. I am not. I really struggle in that area. And whenever I have to make a posting, I always have to ask her, how do I do this? But she will give regular updates on Facebook and Instagram on what is happening in Spain with a school, with a growth, with each additional school that we plant, and how you guys can be praying for us and the school. Along with a couple articles on why Spain needs the gospel. I don't know if we shared this earlier, but 3% of Spain is Christian, and 2% of those are actually expats. So that's foreigners living in Spain. So essentially that means that 1% of Spaniards living in Spain are Christian, which actually lists Spain as they're considered an unreached people group again, which is interesting to think of a first world country as being unreached. And part of that is because they just don't have the churches, they don't have the ministries out and about in the city, because if you only have 1% Christian, you can only reach so much. And also on that link would take you to our giving page. We are going to be bold and, how did you say it? Humble but bold, and say we need big time. We need supporters to partner with us in the ministry. So please see us afterwards if you are interested in learning more. The next slide talks about prayer needs. Please pray for Shiloh for the transition of the new director. Excuse me. They moved in on Friday. They will be transitioning for this summer. We have a great team up there. Camp has been set up to flourish and do very well this summer. And so if there is... Oh, he's holding his pants. I'm sorry about that. So yeah, just please be praying for Shiloh. and the transition. Please pray for financial partners for our ministry that we're joining as our family transitions back to international missions. Please pray for our children. I know they're going to do well. They do very well in full-time ministry, transitioning, being on the road, but it's still always hard when you move from one place to another place. Especially for our oldest, please pray for Olivia as she's entering high school. She could use those prayers. And pray for life in the school and the overall organization, Christian schools in Spain. And with everything, to God be the glory. This is not a ministry that we do for us. We just choose to use our gifts for Him, to glorify Him. I want to read another verse for you real quick. I know we've all heard this many times, but it's Matthew 28:19 through 20. It's, "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them into the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you, and behold, I am with you always to the end of the age." So we're all called to be missionaries, whether that be in Meridian, Star, Boise, Shiloh, and Donnelly, or Spain. We're all called to be missionaries. Some of that means that we rely on the support of others. Some of that means that God has blessed us in our jobs to be able to send missionaries. So again, we want to thank this church, because this church has been a big part of sending us to Spain and sending us to Shiloh. But we're coming to you guys humbly and boldly asking if you'll continue to partner with us to send us again. Acts 13:47 says, "For so the Lord has commanded us, saying, I have made you a light for the Gentiles, that you may bring salvation to the ends of the earth." And 1 Corinthians 10 says, "So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do all to the glory of God." And that last verse there is something that we try to live our lives as a family. We tell our children this all the time, that everything we do is to glorify Him. We're not here to live a life of fun and pleasure. We're not here to live a life of meaningless, empty voids. We're called to glorify God and make Him known. And yes, there are enjoyable moments to our life that we get to do beyond just the ministry, but if we're truly living in the Word, truly living for the Lord, then worship is fun. Using our gifts is amazing. And so we're blessed to be called to do ministry, and we're blessed to be able to do that with you guys. So with that said, something I try to pass on, something I always try to share with people is we have one life to live and one life to give. And because that, we want to make our lives meaningful. We want our children to see that our lives are meaningful, and we want to give our lives to the Lord, and whatever that might look. So with that being said, I've kind of run out of stuff to share, I think, on Spain, unless there are questions. Yes? Yeah, that's a great question. So we are raising support. Most of the staff are missionary staff. There is a tuition for the school, but it's kept really low in order to allow Spaniards to come. So the tuition goes into the cost of the building. There are some national staff there, the kitchen staff. The Spanish government educational system requires that history be taught in Spanish by a Spaniard. And so that's how they stay accredited with a Spanish government. And so there are some local requirements that does cost, and so the tuition does go towards that. But if you take out the cost of the missionaries, that allows the cost of the school to stay very low, which then opens the door to more Spaniards. On top of same thing, scholarships that we did at Shiloh to get kids to the school to hear about Christ. Yes? My wife and I will be doing language school during our first 2 years. While there, thankfully, I can do the job because it's an English-speaking school, and that's another draw of the school, is that that it's in English, a lot of these families want their kids to be bilingual, and so everything's taught in English except for that one Spanish class. And so we'll be doing language school in the morning, and then I will be working for the rest of the day, and then my wife will be taking care of the kids that come home from school. And so we're going to try to do a balance act for the first couple of years so that we can kind of full immersion, learn, and work and serve at the same time. So I'm hoping that after 2 years, our language will be fluent enough that we can kind of move into helping start the next school or continuing to grow that school. And the language we're learning, I keep forgetting, it's called Castellano, is how they say it. It's Castilian, which is Spanish, but a different dialect from what we know. Seth. Yes, so our biggest financial need is monthly support. We need about $4,600 more a month to be released. We were hoping it was $3,500, but there are some insurance requirements that our sending agency is requiring us to have regarding international health insurance. So we are working with the missionaries that we know in Spain to see if there's a workaround so we can cut that down, because European insurance is very cheap for those that are there, for Europeans, but not cheap for foreigners living in Spain. So we are looking to raise $4,600 more by August 1st, $4,600 more monthly by August 1st. Most of our one-time gifts are met. We still have some more to meet, but we're trusting the Lord that those will be met through our monthly givers. Those that can start giving now, actually anything that's given now between today and August 1st will go towards our setup costs, airfare, language school, car. I'm told that the apartments there, you're required to put down like 3 months rent, and so we have to save for that as well. I don't know the exact number, but when I went and visited, I'd say about 2/3 of the staff were missionary. So like the office staff were locals, and part of that was the face. So if you have a local Christian office staff, a local Christian welcome person, then they speak the language fluently. Families that come in get to see a welcoming, fluent face. About 50, so this is interesting, about 50%, it is an international school, but about 50% of the school are Spaniards. The other 50% are, well, about 5% are missionary kids, which our kids would fall into that category. The other 45% are other families that have moved to Spain as well. So they want the English and Spanish-speaking educational system in a Christian school. I know when we were there, where there were some families from Ukraine, some families from Georgia, and Russia as well. And so it is an international school, even though the primary ministry is to the Spaniards. Any other questions? Yes. Yeah, so we're actually very open to the curriculum on what we can use. We're working on being accredited through the ACSI system. It's the Association of Christian Schools International. And by being accredited through ACSI, that means our kids can have it's an accredited diploma, which means that they can go to universities in Europe and America will recognize their diploma. And so the school is currently accredited through 10th grade. And so every year when the school adds on another grade level, they go through the accreditation process for that grade. But with them getting close to seniors, they need to make sure that they're in the process of preparing these kids for college. We do not currently have a guidance counselor, so I will be serving that role as well, helping with that. So if you know of a guidance counselor that would like to come serve, if this organization's opening 20 schools, they're in a huge growth period where any administrators, teachers, aides, anybody that has a heart to serve, we would love to have you guys join us. Another great thing about going to Europe is because, like my wife said, some people view Europe as a tourist destination. We would love to have you come visit us. We would love for you to come serve alongside us. If you can get to Europe, you will have a free place to stay. We will feed you. While I'm at the school, my wife would love to take you around Madrid and show you Madrid. And even then, we've been talking about our hope is to raise the funds that we can come back every summer. Our kids still would love to go to Shiloh. So if we come back every summer, we can come give updates to our partnering churches. I would be here for 3 to 5 weeks is what we've talked about. My wife and the kids would be here 6 to 8 weeks. And so even then, if there is anybody that would love to get to Europe and wouldn't mind 5 kids in your house here, we would love to do a house swap. You can come stay in our house. We'll come stay here, share at the churches, and you get to enjoy our house in Europe. I see a couple of people smiling. But yeah, we would, that's kind of our plans right now. Yes? Yes. So this sounds a little muddy, so I'm going to try to make it clear it up as best as possible. We're going to go with Teach Beyond. It's kind of our sending agency. They provide counseling, they provide support, they provide budgeting, they provide support for our children, counseling for our children, and they send hundreds of teachers every year, and they've got thousands of teachers around the world. So we're going with Teach Beyond. So our sending agency is them, and we're going to go serve under the umbrella of Christian Schools International, CSI. Christian Schools in Spain, sorry, CSS. And then their first school is Life. So our goal is to be in Spain for the next 10, 15, 20 years, however long God has us there. And so we could bounce around between schools under CSS as we help them open schools. If God ever opened the door, being with Teach Beyond, we could go to another school if we chose to, but we do really feel passionate about God calling us to Christian schools in Spain. So we're serving with Life International School for at least 2 years under CSS, Christian Schools in Spain, with Teach Beyond as our sending agency. Yes? We're living in a suburb of Madrid. It's about a 30-minute train ride to downtown. Yeah, it's on the northwest. I can even pull it up for you on Google Maps later if you'd like. I can show you exactly where the school was as of this year. I don't know their new location yet.
I was just going to say, so when we visited, they had us in a hotel, but Mike got to go back. He went for a leadership conference last month, or the month before, and visited, stayed in an apartment, and also got to visit what they call a row house. And so that will be the housing that we're looking for. It'll be probably potentially within walking distance from the school, but at least public transportation distance from the school. And essentially, it's big enough for our family, but then split between 3 or 4 levels. So, but it'll give us the opportunity to be close enough to have people over, to be able to get to the school quickly and all of that. So that's the housing we're looking at.
Any other questions for my wife? Or me? All right, well, thank you guys for having us. Please pray about partnering with the Lord in this ministry. Actually, my wife said something in the car ride earlier, and it was awesome, and I told her to remember that, but do you remember what it was? The Lord, she's saying yes.
I was just saying, we were talking to the kids as we came, that just like God has called us to go, he's also calling people to give so that we can go. And it's an amazing privilege to be able to go, but we can't go without senders. And so we are thankful for ABF and your partnership. You guys have been so vital to us being able to go to Shiloh and even to go to Spain. And so, yeah, we're just praying that God will draw the hearts of the people that he's calling to give to him through this ministry. So thank you for considering it. We're excited to be with you for the next 2.5, 3 months. It's kind of a weird thing to say, well, we're on home assignment because it's only 2 hours from, where we were ministering, but it's really like a different world up there. So it is kind of like coming home. We're excited to be with you. We're excited to spend time and get to know you. So please introduce yourselves. We'll be around, and we'd love to get to know you. And however we can serve you, if there's something we can pray for, or if you have a need that we can meet, we would love to do that.
Thank you. We will see you guys. I don't know the process here. Is everybody usually just dismissed? Or?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so that's Teach Beyond, our sending agency. We will be released to purchase tickets when we get to 90% of our support, with the assumption that we will be raising the last 10% before we fly out. So Teach Beyond, I'd say right now we're close to about 65% of our support. No, lower than that, I'm sorry. 55% of our support is kind of where we're at right now. Yep. Not like Shiloh. We were a new organization at Shiloh, so we could just go and trust the Lord to provide for our needs, and he did. But it's a little different when we're in Spain. We'll be on a volunteer visa, so we can't do side jobs. We can't do, you can't earn anything on the side on a volunteer visa, or else you risk your visa being canceled. So, yep. So thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for coming. Sorry, you said something else, Thomas? Yes. So yeah, let's pray for the service coming up, and thank you guys for hearing about our ministry. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this church and allowing us to share and partner with them, and thank you for bringing us all together on this day. Thank you for your many blessings, and I pray that you help us grow closer to you every day. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you, guys.